Hey guys, Professor here. Lately, I've been playing a lot of Arknights Endfield over this past week since its launch, and with that, I've been asked many questions, so I decided to do a few videos for this game and see how that goes moving forward. But the main question that I've been getting a lot is, how am I getting so many of these Valley stock bills or stock bills for other regions? So with these, they're used in like all of the upgrades for your bases, like area expansions, depot buses, and also used to buy a lot of different items that are incredibly useful for upgrading your characters. So how am I making millions and millions of these per day? Well, first off, to see where you're actually going to be getting these stock bills from, there's an easy all-in-one menu, which is called the Regional Development Management menu. And this you might already know if you played just a little bit, but just in case, you can get to the icon right here in the upper left or by pressing Y, or going to the main menu and then clicking Regional Development. So this is where you're going to be getting the majority of your stock bills. So in Valley 4, there's 3 options, and there's additional option in a region later called Wuling. But let's go over these one by one and how I would efficiently go through these to get the most out of them. So with Outpost Management, this is going to be the first one that you're going to get. And this is where you're giving resources to each of the sub bases that you'll get throughout the game. So the first one that you will have is the refugee camp. And there's a lot to take in at first here, but it's actually quite simple. So this section, the stock bill savings, this is how many stock bills you can currently earn from this particular base. And this just goes up over time. So with mine right now, I'm getting on average 29,000 bills that I can earn from them. And this just keeps going up to a certain amount. And then once that reaches the cap, it will no longer generate until you actually take some of those stock bills from them. And with the rest of it down here, this is where you're going to be choosing specific items to trade to them that they want so you can get those stock bills. So this is the amount of goods that I can currently trade with them. At the start of the game, you'll have a limited number of options, but as you upgrade the bases or increase their outpost prosperity, that's where you can get more choices to give them different items. But at first, the best kind of items to give them are like the Rigo Crust or the Amethyst parts. To actually get these items, you do have to manufacture it in your factories. So this is incredibly easy for these first 2 parts. Rigo Crust is literally just one building. You just need to be mining the Originium ore, and then you output it into the refining unit, and then either back into your sub pack or main like station, or you put it into like a protocol stash like I do here for the Amethyst parts. This is like one more step to it. You have to refine it into these wires, then go to a fitting unit for the Amethyst parts. That's all you really need to do, and then just power it up with a pylon. So if I was back at the beginning of the game, I would spam these kind of setups as much as possible, but there is a limit to it. So that's based on the minerals that you're mining and how much space within your base. But usually it's the minerals, how much you're getting of that, that's going to limit you the most. You can check that by clicking on the sub pack or the main station, and this gives you a breakdown. A further breakdown that's better, in my opinion, is if you click this button as well right here. This shows you the yield and usage of all of these resources. So you want to have your usage be lower than or equal to the amount that you're yielding or how much you're producing over time. Or otherwise, you're going to start running into a deficit and then eventually run out of that resource, and some of your buildings will start shutting off or not being as efficient. So going up to that yield with your usage, getting that as close as possible, is the best bang for your buck. Back to the Outpost Management screen though, you do want to try to make the highest unit price item that you can to trade with them. So first, you're going to be doing a Rigo Crust, Amethyst parts, or like Amethyst bottles. But as you move on, you're going to do higher and higher tier resources up to like these Buck Capsule A's, which sell for 70 per unit. So much better than the 1 per unit here. However, like the catch is, these are more involved to make, but they are way more efficient than making like 70 Rigo Crust, which are going to use way more resources. For an example, just imagine 70 of these Rigo Crust setups, which are all quite simple in themselves, but it's going to take a lot of this Originium ore with these outputs. So 70 of these outputting all at the same time, eating up so much of that. But then look at Buck Capsule A. So this is a way more involved process with, multiple steps to it. However, if you look up at the outputs, there's only 12 of these things up here. So that's way better than 70 outputs. It is different resources, but you can kind of get the idea. Even then, some of these are renewable resources like these plants in the middle, and there's only 8 ores, which are on the side. So actually a better return versus those Rigo Crust if you made a ton of those. But you can just make simpler stuff too as you go along. You don't have to do like the Buck Capsule A necessarily until you get to the end of it. So you kind of work your way up to it so it isn't just super overwhelming. So like making the C's or B versions or some of this other items and batteries. This honestly depends on like which place you're trying to give to and what level that it is at. Speaking of level, to level these, it's also just trading in these resources. So the unit price that it says on these items is how much XP or prosperity that you're going to get towards these places. And then you have to reach the certain XP limit of that place, and then you get to the next level. Just be careful though that any items that you turn in over that limit of the current XP bar will not carry over into the next level. If you have a lot of stock bill savings available for a place and have not reached the max level of it yet, which is currently 4, then you don't want to just dump all your resources that you have into it. You want to do just enough to get it to that next level. So it will say when you're doing the transaction or doing the trade-in, that it says transaction will reach it to the current limit. So you don't want to go too much beyond that. You want to do just enough to get it there and save your resources and the savings for when you do a certain quest to level that place up. Once you finish that quest, it'll get you that next level and give you a new XP bar to work with, and then you can dump in more and more. There are a few benefits for leveling up these places. One we already kind of mentioned, which is more options for goods to be able to trade with. And then the biggest things are the stock bill savings. So it can go up to a higher amount saved in here, so you don't have to turn in as often, so you don't have to do it like every day. It can be every like couple of days they can check in on it. But then every hour they'll be able to generate more into these savings too. So you're going to be getting more stock bills from them because you can trade in more goods. Now on the same tab, there is this stock bill bonus earning chance, which has something to do with the level and kind of not. But with this, for every 1 stock bill earned by this outpost at this base number, there is a certain chance to earn an additional one, kind of get like an extra chicken nugget in the box. But this is kind of like the average involving this bonus. So this is like the actual base number. This is what it thinks you're going to get per hour if this procs on average. Basically, it's better to get a higher chance of this as much as you can. So the one involving the level of your base is this area defense bonus. So every time you level the camp, there is this auto defense or like tower defense mode that you can do that is at a early warning terminal station. So that's this right here. Most base have these, not every single one. There's different risk levels depending on how upgraded your base is. So there's a version where you can use your operators, and this gives you a temporary stock bill bonus earning chance, but then you can make that permanent if you don't involve your operators and just leave it up to your turrets to defend this place. So it's kind of like your typical tower defense modes where there's a certain kind of enemy going through these lanes. You just got to protect this station right there, or sometimes there's multiple stations. It just really depends on the place that you're at. But typically these aren't too hard, except for like on the later levels of it. But as long as you keep up with like the tech tree of getting like the higher turrets to defend with, they should be just fine as long as you place like the maximum of them on the field. And that maximum does depend on the level of the base and how far you've been getting in these area defenses. Every time you clear one, like even with these operator interventions, you'll be getting more combat facility capacity. So this allows you to put down more of those turrets. Moving on to the other part of the bonus, this is where you can assign an operator to this outpost to get certain bonuses if they match the properties of the outpost. So you can actually assign the operators down below the image here. There's 3 characteristics to match to these properties. So faction, hobbies, and expertise. If you have the faction matching to the outpost, so for this one, it's Rhodes Island characters, this allows you to get extra XP or outpost prosperity when you trade. So for every 1 point, there's a 20% chance to get an additional one. So this is great for when you're leveling, but not so great when you have it maxed out. Then with the hobbies, like matching with creative here. So this allows you to get extra stock bills when you trade in the resources. So every 1 stock bill that you get, there's a 20% chance to just get 1 more out of thin air. So that is very nice. That extra 1 does not actually take from that saving stockpile. It's just extra. Then with the final one, with expertise, this is the bonus that we already saw, where this is a 20% chance to earn an additional 1 for the outpost itself. So this is just what it itself is generating, not what you are actually earning. But this gives you more to earn in the future. If you're trying to min-max the operator usage, where you're actively switching between them, you want to make sure that when you're not trading and just letting the outpost generate its savings, this is where you want to assign somebody that has the expertise matching. So the Outpost is generating more stock bills for you to trade with. And then once you're actually going to trade, as you're leveling it, you definitely want to make sure you have the faction matching to get the extra prosperity, because it's way better to have the place level than it is just to get some extra stock bills as it's leveling. If you can get both the faction hobby bonus on a character, that is definitely the best when trading. But if you only have the option of one, make sure to do the Outpost prosperity as it's leveling. But if you're done leveling it, where it's max level at 4, then that's where you want to get the hobby to match. So for example, when I first started off, I used Antal to just generate extra stock bills for the Outpost, and then I switched to Ardelia and assigned her when I was actually going to trade in resources. And then I just switched back once I'm done trading to Antal, so then it generates more and more. And it was the same principle with the Reconstruction HQ as well, where I used Perlica to generate those extra stock bills for the Outpost. Then I switched to Ardelia when I was leveling it, but now that I'm not leveling it anymore, I don't actually have a character like Antal, which has both of those bottom bonuses. So I keep it at Perlica to generate the extra stock bills, but when I trade, I actually go to Alesh, who's going to give me extra stock bills when I do trade in, and then I just swap back. That should be everything with the Outpost management. If you wanted any blueprints for these factory goods, just to have an easy copy and paste setup for some of these, I'll be putting those blueprints in my Discord in a channel, so you can check that out in the link down below. For the next part for making a lot of stock bills is the stock redistribution. So shortly after you unlock the first sub base in the Valley Pass, you can access this mascot or lucky carrot guy next to the worker dorms to this teleporter. There'll probably be like some side quests for him. And then once you talk to him for the first time, you'll allow him to do the stock redistribution. This brings up a couple of menus. The first is where you can actually buy items with stock bills, but where you're actually going to be generating them is with the elastic goods. So if you've ever played like Animal Crossing and done like the turnips where you're trading the turnips to other players to get more money out of them or more bells, this is kind of a similar system to that. So as you unlock these buildings from this guy and also upgrade them, you'll get more of these goods that you can buy on a daily basis, as shown right here. And then also a wider range of these goods as you upgrade them too. And with these, they change in price every single day in your world. And you typically want to buy like the lowest one, but that isn't necessarily always the case. So with these, you can trade them with other players or wait to trade them in your own world. Typically, the better option is to trade with other players, so you can do it more immediately. But just for example, let's take a look at this Vigilant Pickaxes item. This is currently, I can buy them for 1,200 stock bills each. And then if I check my friends' prices, I compare my price to theirs. Mike Cool, on my friends list, has 5,213 as their selling price. So if I was to go to their world and sell it, I'd make a huge profit. So like around 4,000. So with that 4,000 profit each, I can get that out of each one of these. So I can buy this for a total of 384,000 or 320 of them, and make 4 to 5 times that amount selling to that one person. As far as I know, there's no limit to how much you can sell, but there is a limit to how much you can purchase based on how upgraded you have these stations. When first starting off, you're not going to have like a ton of friends on your list, and the purchasing limit is going to be insanely low. So what I would do is try to get more friends as possible, even if it was just like inviting randoms, just to get more of a spread to choose from, so you have a higher chance of being able to sell high instead of lower and minimizing your gains. So a lot of the times people are just sending like random friend requests, so sometimes I just accept them there just to expand, but there is a limit of 100 people, so there is certain people that you want on your list. You want to keep, some space for them. And you can also just add some more people here and try to get more people on your list. Do keep in mind with the friends though, is that the available goods that are shown, they also have to have available if you want to trade that good to them. So that's tied to upgrading these stations. So typically the higher level player is going to have more of these upgraded or built. So then you'll be able to trade with those players if you also have that good. But for yourself, when you start off, you're going to have like a very small amount that you can purchase and trade with. So what I did at the very beginning of the game to be able to improve that is I bought whatever I could, even if I couldn't buy up to my limit with whatever amount of stock bills that I had. and try to do the best profit with items that I currently existed to the friends that I had. And with that money that I made, if there's any more that I could purchase, I'll keep repeating that trip over and over again until I was up to that limit. So let's just say I had enough money to purchase only 10 of the 320 that I currently have available. And then I would look through these items to see what gave me the most profit, typically the ones that are, you know, lower in price, and then whatever difference between the friends, what would give me the most money. So let's just say it's this one right here. So then I would purchase that 10, go back and look at the friend's price. So this is something that I would have already confirmed before. And then I would visit that friend's ship and go trade that 10. So they just have a terminal right after you teleport into their ship right here. And this will allow you to just like bulk sell. That's an easy option just to click and then just sell that quantity. Or if you want to choose that one specific item, if you have been saving up items, they can just click that and sell. And that shows you how much money that you're going to be getting out of it. So then now I have 50,000 more stock bills. So then maybe I'll be able to purchase more and more of that amount, and then I'll keep repeating this trip. Thankfully, you don't have to go back to that bunny or station every single time. You just have to go back to at least your own world through that teleporter. And then once you do, just go to that same regional development menu, stock redistribution, and they can just buy it in here. And also during that process, if I could upgrade or build any new stations while doing those trips, then I would do that, so that way it gives me more options to buy from, just in case there was something that would give me more profit and that would change how my trips would go forward. At first, it may take a little bit to actually get these up because sometimes they cost like tens of thousands and then eventually hundreds of thousands. But if you're doing this consistently and in that way, you'll be able to ramp up how much profit that you're making with how much that you can purchase. And then also while you're upgrading these, you get actually more to purchase right then and there instead of having to wait to the next daily reset. While upgrading these stations, you'll also be getting more options in the staple goods section, which includes character progression items, weapons, and other random items. But you don't want to spend in this right away because this could be using stock bills that you could instead be using to get more and more profits by using it on elastic goods or other buildings. So refrain from buying these until you upgrade everything else, and then once you're generating as much profit as possible, then you can buy as much of this as you want, because none of it is required to get through the game. It's more for like extra characters or just like trying to farm better for certain things. Moving on to the last thing of Valley 4 are depot nodes. This is where you're pretty much role-playing as a door dasher to take different goods to locations on that same map that the depot node is at. So the first one is like in the Originium Science Park, which is a little bit into Valley 4. This allows you to take those raw materials or different products out of your factory and ship them around. So depending on the upgrade of these nodes, gives you different options. At first, you're just going to have light miscellaneous, so basically just anything you can put into that kind of crate. And then you only have the small crate at the start, which is the amount of items that you're putting into it. Depending on that combination, like the higher you go, the more earnings that you're going to get. So right now with the smallest amount, we could get up to 60,000 stock bills by delivering this. Yeah, with the higher kind of material, it'll increase that. And then also the capacity will increase it by even more so. But let's just go to the minimum right now. So this is what it looks like where you're putting in the items from your depot or how much you have stashed within your factories. So there is a minimum amount that you need to put into, which is this delivery thing here, which is like 1/3. You never want to just do that. You always want to top it off, just always. So clicking these buttons just auto puts in items that you have the most of that is also worth the most value. So right now I have this Kriston fiber, which is worth 2 each. Then it puts in 1,500 of that into that kind of crate. But if I want to manually select it, I could also just, put it here and then scroll this slider up to that maximum if I want to, or even do partial amounts of different kinds of resources. Once I have the maximum selected, I can click next, and this will give me a list of bidders willing to go for the crate. This is all just NPCs on the map. You can check their location by clicking that button. It shows exactly where they are from where your depot node is at. They can just choose whatever's like the best one. Right now, all of these are the same bid amount, so I can technically just choose any of these. But a lot of the times they are varying in price, with the topmost being the biggest bid. Unfortunately, once you are on this screen, given these options of bidders, there's no way to go back and change your crate. If you want to like have a higher crate or try to get a different list of bidders, there's just no way to do that. I'm guessing it's because they don't want you to just keep recycling that list. But once you're here, you are locked into what you used. But yeah, you can just start the delivery by selecting one of these and clicking this button. And then once you do start a delivery, you do get 30% of that bidding value instantly once you click that start. So you don't even have to deliver it yet. You just get 30% of it. Then once you complete that delivery, you get the rest of that bid, as long as you don't lose the integrity of that package. So this depends on the level of package that you're doing. So for light miscellany crates, one thing that you don't want to do is use teleporters. So if you teleport while having this crate on you, then it will damage the crate and you'll get less out of the bid. Let's just start this delivery. See there, we get the 18,000 right away. Now, it doesn't actually give us the goods instantly. We have to actually pick it up from the node itself. But before I do that, I always make sure that I have a zip line right towards the NPC that I'm going to. The reason why is just for faster travel right now and into the future, since the NPC can be chosen later down the line with future deliveries. Then also for other crates, there's different integrity loss, I guess, options or challenges that can happen. Once that's all set up, you can just take the crate and go right to the NPC and turn it in. But if you're feeling super lazy or you don't have like a lot of time, you can also just let somebody else do the crate delivery for you. So if you actually go to your missions or quests, which you can just access from that menu, or by pressing J on the keyboard, you actually go to that particular delivery job and click transfer job. So what this does, it actually transfers the job to a different player that just gets picked up on a job board. So we can confirm that here. Then we can see in this list in the same depot node screen that is waiting for job pickup. I already did one earlier, and it looks like Pringle delivered that crate. So then I can just claim the stock bills as if I did that delivery myself. So that gives you that beyond 30%. So this is that 70% of the bill. And the reason why you do that for yourself is just if you're lazy or you don't have the time to do those deliveries, or don't have the zip line set up and you don't feel like doing it at the moment. But the reason why somebody else would do that is that they also get that 70% amount of bills. So both of you get the 70%. It's just kind of like generated out of thin air pretty much. And they also get additional credits, which is used for a different store. You can also pick up other players' jobs if they are posted in this second tab, and you can do up to 3 per day as it shows down here. I think it's like refresh the list just in case, you know, it's not loading correctly, but looks like right now there are no listed jobs. Typically people do them for the sales, or they're only posted like really early on daily resets. So you might not see this all the time, but when you do, you definitely want to pick it up and try to get those extra stock bills. Do keep in mind when other players are doing your job or when you're doing theirs, you can still mess up those integrity challenges. So you make sure that you don't teleport or do the other things related to the other kinds of crates. Otherwise, it will reduce the value for both yourself and the other person. Then also with these, when somebody picks up your job or you pick up theirs, you have 3 days to complete it. So sometimes you could be waiting a while. Looks like this person completed it instantly for me. They could be waiting a while for them to finish it, or they don't finish it at all. When that happens, you only get a fraction of the value to return to you. Typically, I just do the delivery jobs myself to make sure I get the full value out of them. But like I said, if you're feeling like really lazy or you're like right up against reset time, you don't have the time to actually do it, then I could just give it to somebody else. I haven't run into anybody that has reduced the integrity, but there is just the chance of it. But taking a look at those other kinds of goods. So what influences the challenges isn't based on the size of the crate on the right-hand side. It's the fragility of the items on the left-hand side. So for light miscellany, we already saw the no teleporting. With raw materials, in addition to no teleporting, you cannot get hit by enemies. Otherwise, that reduces the integrity. And then for super fragile factory goods, that's both of those. And you cannot jump. So that's probably like the biggest one, is not jumping. That's why I love using the zip lines to go from these different locations. That way it just avoids the jumping and getting hit entirely. It does take a little bit of work to set those all up, but once it's done, it's done. You don't have to like redo it ever again. But to get access to these, you do have to upgrade the particular depot node that you're delivering from. So it starts at level 1 with just like light miscellany. They can level up to level 4 to get access to everything else. But then also, as you're upgrading it, you're increasing your local depot limit. So what that means is every resource has a certain hard limit that you can store within your factory or depot, whatever. And this raises that hard limit. So for this depot, it raises plus 20,000 at level 4. Another is plus 22,000, plus 30,000. By default, without these, you have 8,000 for a limit, but can get up to 80,000 in Valley 4. So that in turn helps with packing these goods, but then also helps with the first part that we mentioned with the Outpost Management, so you can also trade in more goods once it's like stockpiling up with your factory. Then with these, once per day, once per location, you can do a delivery, so 3 times per day in the Valley 4 area, then an additional 3 jobs from other players, which can just be a mix and match of those previous locations, doesn't really matter. But before you do a delivery, make sure you upgrade these to the highest you possibly can with your current stock bills after doing like the elastic goods and doing the trade with outposts, because higher you upgrade these, like I said, the higher kind of crate that you can make. So you just want to maximize that during the one-time delivery that you can do per day. That's pretty much all the main ways within Valley 4 itself. You can also get stock bills by killing enemies, but it isn't a whole lot. It's like sometimes like between 10 to even 200 for like way bigger enemies for the stock bills. But generally that's only like really good at the start of the game just to get you off your feet, and then everything else is going to be doing that heavy lifting for you. Then as you're upgrading all of these stations and doing other things within the game, you'll be upgrading this regional development level, which this does like a whole bunch of bonuses, but related to stock bills, it raises the regional stock bill limit. So that allows me to have up to 30 million currently at the max level, but at lower points you won't be able to hold as much at a time, but you shouldn't really ever reach that limit unless if you're completely bought out of everything in the game. But besides the Valley 4 region, there is another one, Wuling, which has its own kind of stock bill. So this is completely separate from Valley 4. You have to earn these stock bills within the Wuling region. So anything that you did before isn't really going to carry over to this. However, it does have a lot of the same main things. So like Outpost Management, Stock Redistribution, Depot Node, that's all the same. It works the same, but there is a limit to it at the launch of the game. So there is only like 1 depot node that can only go to level 2. And then kind of like the same deal with other things. There's only 1 outpost, only 1 stock redistribution place. So it's kind of limited for now, but will expand as the game gets more patches. But there is one new main way to get stock bills here, and that is environment monitoring. This one is quite a bit different, but also insanely easy compared to some of the other things, where all you're doing is accepting a job. So like this one can give you 210,000 stock bills. And once you do that, you just go to a location that it says and take pictures of that location. That's all you have to do. And then you just get that stock bill amount. But with this, it doesn't reset every day. It resets every like 2 days. So you're not going to be getting as many stock bills from this as often, but it is just extra on top of some of the other methods. That is all the main methods right now to making these stock bills in both of the regions. Before we end it here, I do want to show off a little bit of the factory setups for the Outpost Management to get the most out of that. Once you're at that like end game point to where you can make everything and have like all the minerals. So like for the Wuling area, I have 2 of these Wuling battery setups. And just as a reminder, any of these blueprints I'll be saving into the Discord if you want to copy and paste any of those for yourself. And then also you can make one of these medicine areas that makes the Yajin syringe. You'll be able to trade those kind of items to the outpost currently. But right now I can only have 1 of those and 2 of these spots until we just get more of the Wuling area. When it comes to the Valley 4 area, it's a bit different. Every outpost eventually once it's like all upgraded, these Buck Capsule A's and the HC Valley batteries. So make the most of those to get like that 70 per unit price. So I have 3 of these battery spots, which can get quite a bit out of hand, but that's why I blueprint it so I can just copy and paste it, not to worry about it again. Yeah, I have 3 of those spots. 1 is just dedicated to just giving me energy for all of those kind of buildings, just everywhere. Then 1's like partially for power, but I don't need to use it for all of it. That's also depositing, and then 1 just purely just for depositing. When it comes for the Buck Capsule A's, those are all in my sub bases. So if we take a look at the one from before, the Valley Pass, this is like that setup once again from earlier in the video. I just have this copy pasted 1 for 1 in each of the bases. They can fit once your bases are like fully maxed out, once you have like all those stock bills and whatnot. So this is like a great setup just to keep generating those stock bills once you have everything set up. And then any extra space you can just fill with like extra like farms, other materials you need for like upgrading, whatever you need. So it leaves you plenty of space and also gets you plenty of stock bills moving forward. That's everything that I have for you guys today. Let me know if there's any other questions that you have with Arknights Endfield. And if you want to catch me live, I also stream on Twitch almost every single day. Thank you guys for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.